Hi, I'm Jay, and I'm excited to share with you this simple interest home solution plan. And I think it's an absolute game changer because it's going to change lives one house at a time, one home at a time, one family at a time, and one personal economy at a time. Because what it does, it's an algorithm that lets a seller sell their house at top dollar and still control the timeline where they get to pick the closing date and when that happens and all those types of things. But at the same time, it allows the buyer to come in and buy this house with a simple interest loan versus a traditional 30-year payout mortgage loan. And on a $200,000 house, this is huge because it can save the buyer over $125,000 in interest, and they can pay off the house in 12 years versus the 30-year payoff with the traditional mortgage. And I just think, if you put this in terms of you and your family, what kind of difference would this make if you had an extra $125,000 to utilize for you and your family? What kind of difference would that make for you and your future and what y'all do together? And now think about that for the typical hardworking middle-class family. I think this will be an absolute game changer, and I hope you agree. So how does this work? That's what you're probably asking yourself right now. And there's basically 4 parties involved in this process. There's the seller, then there's the bank or the private money lender, then there's the simple interest home expert, and finally there's the buyer that's going to end up in the house. So in a nutshell, what happens is the home expert is going to go out and find a seller. They're going to talk to the seller and explain the benefits and conveniences of using this simple interest solution. And then as long as the seller agrees, we can go ahead and move forward. And that's step 1. Step 2, the private money lender is going to act as the bank and provide a cash loan to the simple interest home expert. That expert's going to turn around with that money and buy the seller's house for cash. The seller gets no hassles of having to get the house ready, no hassles of having to show the house or keep it in show-ready condition, and they get the convenience of picking their timeline anywhere from 10 to 90 days out. So they get total convenience, total control of the process, and they get a guaranteed cash offer right up front. So step 3, once the expert takes possession of the house, they're going to begin marketing it via owner financing. And when the buyer is found, they're going to be able to close quickly because there's not a lender, there's not an appraisal involved. But don't get me wrong, this is a fully transparent and professional transaction the whole way through. We're still going to utilize everything that a traditional real estate sale would, from title companies to escrow accounts and home inspections, whatever vendors are necessary to have the transaction close. So finally, in step 4, the buyer takes possession of the house and they begin to repay their mortgage as scheduled to the simple interest home expert. The expert in turn begins to repay their mortgage to the private money lender. The only difference is their loan to the private money lender is a traditional 30-year fixed amortized loan, and it's got a much better interest rate for the private money lender.